Hey, this is Zishan Hassan, a tutor of ACCA, and in this session video, I'm gonna discuss you about the IFRS 15, that is revenue recognition and construction contracts. As you all know, that IFRS 15 revenue recognition um, is been introduced by the IASB, and it is effective from 1st January 2018, right? So in this session I will discuss the issues raised by the real estate companies, real estate industries, in the interpretation of IFRS 15. Okay, so the issue is, before discussing the issue, let us look at the problem. We have to look at the IFRS 15 model, right? So IFRS 15 replaced the risk and rewards approach, and it introduced the five-step model. And what was that? Five-step model. Number one, identify the contract parties, identify the performance obligation which has to be satisfied, right? Then we have to determine a transaction price, then we have to allocate the transaction 5. Number 5, we have to recognize revenue when all of the performance obligation is satisfied, right? Now, you know in construction contracts, we have two choices to recognize revenue. Either it is point in time or to the overtime. So when we recognize the revenue to the overtime, we recognize revenue as the contract progresses, and as the construction of the building has progresses over time, we recognize this as a we have the right in use. So at the time of invoices, we recognize it as contract asset. We all know that. But what in case of cost? That is, what in case of contract cost? Number one, if the asset is pre-sold to the customer, that is before the even the construction of the asset or the building, um, we recognize it as established right in use, and we recognize the receivable, right? But number two, if the asset is not pre-sold, that is, it is not uh, reach to that stage, then we will recognize this at contract asset. And what if even it's not reached to that stage as well, where we can't recognize it as at contract asset as well? What we will do, we will recognize it as inventory. Remember that remember that number one, what we will do, if it is pre-sold, then we will recognize it as right end use, and we will recognize the receivables. But even if it is not in the stage of pre-sold, right, then we will recognize it as contract asset. Number three, if even if we don't have any customer yet, and it's just in the stage of construction, so then that asset will be our inventory. Remember that. Now, the another concern over this issue is that, sometimes organizations do take the finance from the banks and other finance providers to build the asset. So in this case, either we are constructing an asset according to a pre-sold stage, according to on a point in time, or either and over time, whatever stage it is, we cannot capitalize the borrowing cost. uh, in this regards, in any of this case, we cannot recognize borrowing cost. And I hope you got it. See you in the next session.